Practice 9-5, factoring to solve quadratic equations. So we covered factoring in a previous section, so we're going to be doing more of that to solve quadratic equations. So for number 1, this is already factored for us, and we're going to use the zero product property to solve each equation. So what the zero product property is if x is a value that makes either of these factors equal 0, then that is a solution for x. So what we're going to do is we're going to make each of these factors equal to 0. So we're going to have x plus 5 equals 0, or x minus 3 equals 0. So each of these factors are being set to 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to solve for x by undoing what is being done to the x. So right here, x is being added to 5, so we're going to subtract 5 from each side. So what that means is x equals 0 minus 5, which is negative 5, and on this one we are going to add 3 to both sides. So what that means is x equals 0 plus 3, or 3. So our answer is x equals negative 5, or x equals positive 3. Okay. For number 4, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to set each of these equal to 0. So we have 2n minus 3 equals 0, or 2n plus 3, sorry, or n minus 4 equals 0. Okay, so let's look at the left side first. First, we want to undo the plus sign. So we are going to subtract 3 from both sides. So what that means is 2n equals negative 3. Now we want to undo this 2 because we want n by itself. So 2n is the same as 2 times n. So we're going to want to divide both sides by 2. So we can leave this as a fraction since negative 3 divided by 2 doesn't make a nice number. So n equals negative 3 halves. Now we want to look at this side. We want to undo this minus sign, so we're going to add 4 to both sides. Okay, so what that means is n equals 0 plus 4, which is 4. So our answer is n equals negative 3 over 2, or positive 4. And this is our answer. Number 7, 3x minus 7 times 2x plus 1 equals 0. So we're going to separate these. So we have 3x minus 7 equals 0, or 2x plus 1 equals 0. So we're going to solve each of these separately. So we have minus 7, we want to undo that, so we're going to add 7 to both sides. So we have 3x equals 0 plus 7, which is 7. Now we want to undo this 3 because we want this x by itself. So this is 3 times x, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide both sides by 3. So x equals 7 over 3. Now let's look at our right side. So 2x plus 1 equals 0. We want to undo this plus sign by subtracting from both sides. That cancels that out. So 2x equals negative 1. Then we're going to divide both sides by 2. So this cancels this out. And x equals negative 1 half. So these are our two answers for this problem. Number 10, now we have a trinomial and we need to factor before we can solve. So we're looking for two numbers that add to equal positive 5 and multiply to equal positive 6. So we're going to look for our factors of 6. We have 6 times 1, 3 times 2, and that's about it. So 6 plus 1 is 7, 3 plus 2 is 5. So this is our answer, 3 and 2. So we're going to make our two factors, and we're going to say x plus 3 times x plus 2 equals 0. So we're going to set each of these equal to 0. So either x plus 3 equals 0, or x plus 2 equals 0. And we're going to solve each one. So we're going to say minus 3 from both sides. So x equals positive 3. Or we can subtract 2 from both sides and say x equals negative 2. And these are our two answers for number 10. Number 13, x squared plus 8x equals negative 20. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to equal negative 20 and add to equal positive 8. So what this negative means is we're going to have one positive number and one negative number. So let's look at our factors of 20. We have 20 and 1, we have 5 and 4, and we have 10 and 2. So let's make these negative. So 20 minus 1 is 19, 5 minus 4 is 1, 10 minus 2 is 8, and that matches our middle term. So what that means is we have positive 10 and negative 2. So we're going to say x plus 10 times x minus 2 equals 0. And then we're going to set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. So let's get rid of this for now. So we have x plus 10 equals 0 and x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, and we're going to solve each one separately. So we're going to undo this plus 10 by subtracting 10 from both sides. So x equals negative 10. And we're going to undo this this negative 2 by adding 2 to both sides. So x equals positive 2. So these are our two answers for number 13. Number 16, x squared plus 7x equals 8. So the first thing we want to do is to make this equation equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. So we have x squared plus 7x minus 8 equals 0. So we're looking for two factors that multiply to equal negative 8 and add to equal positive 7. So let's look at negative 8. We have 8 times negative 1 and 4 times negative 2. 8 plus negative 1 is 7, 4 plus negative 2 is 2. So these are our two numbers, 8 and negative 1. So we're going to factor this with our two parentheses, x plus 8 and x minus 1. And then we're going to set each of these equal to 0. So x plus 8 equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, and we're going to solve each separately. We're going to undo this plus 8 by subtracting 8 from both sides. So we have x equals negative 8. We're going to undo this negative 1 by adding 1 to both sides. So x equals positive 1. And these are our two answers. Number 19, 2t squared plus 8t minus 64. So before we do anything, we want to see if there's a common factor that we can factor out, since we have a number in front of the t squared. And we do. We can factor out a 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to factor out a 2 on the outside, and on the inside, we're going to divide each of these terms by 2. So 2t squared divided by 2 is t squared, plus 8 divided by 2, which is 4, minus 64 divided by 2, which is 32. Now we can look for two numbers that multiply to equal negative 2 and add to equal positive 4. So let's look at, this should be a plus sign. So let's look at negative 32. We have, we have 2 times 16. We have 8 times 4. We have 1 times 32. And I think that's about it. So since this is a positive 4, that means the bigger number over here is going to be positive. So we have positive 16, positive 8, positive 32, and negative 2, negative 4, and negative 1. So negative 2 plus 16 is negative 14, so that's not it. Positive 8 minus 4 is positive 4. So this is our answer because it matches with this. So when we factor these, we are going to use positive 8 and negative 4. So we're going to say 2 times, I almost put x, but this is a t. T plus 8 times t minus 4 equals 0. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set each of these factors equal to 0. So we have t plus 8 equals 0 and t minus 4 equals 0. So in order to get rid of this plus 8, we are going to subtract 8 from both sides. So we have t equals negative 8, and then we want to undo this minus 4 by adding 4 to both sides. So we have t equals positive 4. So these are our two answers for this problem. Number 22, we have 2a squared minus a minus 21 equals 0. So this minus a has an invisible 1 in front of it. So there's no common number that we can factor out, so what this means is we need to do our fun box method. We want to separate this into two different terms. So first we're going to take our first and our last number and multiply them. So 2 times negative 21 is negative 42. Now we're looking for two factors that multiply to equal negative 42 and add to equal negative 1. So we can do negative 7 and positive 6. So we're going to separate this into negative 7a plus 6a, and then we're going to carry down our other two terms. So let's rewrite this. We have 2a squared minus 7a plus 6a minus 21. So now we're going to make our box. And we have 2a squared minus 7a plus 6a minus 21. So going down, 2a squared and 6a have 2a in common. Negative 7a and negative 21 have negative 7 in common. Going across, 2a squared and negative 7a have a in common, and 6a minus 21 have a 3 in common. So these are two factors, 2a minus 7 and a plus 3. So we're going to write this down, 2a minus 7, a plus 3 equals 0, and then we want to set each of these equal to 0. So let's separate these. We have 2a minus 7 equals 0, and a plus 3 equals 0. So first we want to solve for a, so we're going to undo this minus 7 by adding 7 to both sides. So we end up with 2a equals 7, and then we want to get rid of this 2 by dividing both sides by 2. So a equals 7 over 2. Now on this side, we want to get rid of this plus sign by subtracting. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. So a equals negative 3. So for our final answer, we have a equals 7 halves or a equals negative 3. And this is our final answer. For number 25, once again, we want to make sure that on this side of the equal sign, it's equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 12 from both sides. So we end up with 2n squared minus 5n minus 12 equals 0. So now we want to take our first term and our last term, since we have a number in front of the n squared, and we're going to multiply them. So 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. And we want to look for two factors of this that add to equal negative 5. So we have 12 times 2, we have 6 times 4, we have, what else? 8 times 3. So since this is negative 5, our bigger number is going to be negative. So we have negative 12, negative 6, and negative 8. So negative 12 plus 2 is negative 10. Negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. And negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. So these are our two numbers that we are going to separate this negative 5n into. This is going to be negative 8n plus 3n. So now we want to rewrite the equation so that it has 4 terms. Okay. So we have 2n squared minus 8n plus 3n minus 12. And then we're going to make our box. So we have 2n squared minus 8n plus 3n minus 12. So going down, we have 2n squared and 3n. What they have in common is n. We have negative 8n and negative 12, and what they have in common is negative 4. Going across, we have 2n squared and negative 8n, and what they have in common is 2n. And then we have 3n and negative 12, and what they have in common is 3. So we have n minus 4 and 2n plus 3. And we're going to set this equal to 0. Now we're going to set each factor equal to 0 separately. So we have n minus 4 equals 0, and 2n plus 3 equals 0. And we want to solve for n. So we're going to get rid of this minus sign by adding 4 to both sides. That means n equals 4. Now we want to get rid of this plus sign on this side by subtracting 3 from both sides. So we have 2n equals negative 3, and since 2n is the same as 2 times n, we're going to divide both sides by 2, since the opposite of multiplying is dividing. And that means that n equals negative 3 over 2. So our final answer is n equals 4 or negative 3 over 2. And this is our final answer. Number 28, last one. Once again, we want to make sure that everything is on the same side of the equal sign. So we're going to subtract 13m and negative 28 from both sides. So we're going to end up with 6m squared minus 13m minus 28 equals 0. Now we're going to take our first and our last number and multiply them together so we can separate this trinomial into 4 terms. So we're going to say 6 times 28, or negative 28, and that is negative 168. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to equal negative 168 and add to equal negative 13. So let's see, we have 2 times 84, we have 8 times 21, and if this 21 is negative, then this will add to equal negative 13. So we have minus 21n plus 8n. And then we're going to rewrite this trinomial, so there's 4 terms. So we're going to say 6m squared minus 21m, wait, this is supposed to be m, minus 28 equals 0. So, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Minus 21m plus 8m minus 28 equals 0. Sorry, I got distracted by extraneous information. So we're going to make our box 6m squared minus 21m, 8m, negative 28. So going down, 6m squared and 8m have 2m in common. Going down, negative 21m and negative 28 have negative 7 in common. Going across, 6m and negative 21m have 3m in common. And going across, 8m and negative 28 have 4 in common. So these are two factors, 2m minus 7 and 3m plus 4 equals 0. And then we want to solve for each one. So we have 2m minus 7 equals 0, 3m plus 4 equals 0. So let's solve the one on the left first. We want to undo this minus by adding 7 to both sides. So we have 2m equals 7. And then we want to divide both sides by 2. So m equals 7 over 2. Now we want to take care of the right side. So we're going to undo this plus 4 by subtracting 4 from both sides. So 3m equals negative 4. And then we want to divide both sides by 3. So m equals negative 4 over 3. So this is our final answer. M equals 7 over 2 or negative 4 over 3. And this is our answer. And that is it for practice 9-5.